Look, me, my t-shirt and the bus here in front of on top of my thumb have the same colors, white and blue. So strange. So we are still getting rid of our swimming pool because it's getting cold, and we have a pile of wood to burn there, but it doesn't matter, it has nothing to do with the video. So, the higher self is not who you think it is. I realize that you guys really love twin flame videos, so I'm making from time to time some very amazing insights. We have a ton of insights about spiritual, but I'm gonna sacrifice myself to give you what you want to hear and a little bit of what I want you to hear. So that's how it is. The higher self is not who you think it is. Why? You're asking. Because we have been always thinking that higher self, it's like God, okay? But like a lesser God. The thing is that me and Petya have a totally different perspective of what you think God is. We will one day make a video about it, or several, but if I would make one here, it will take 1 hour, 2 hours to be able to explain it, and probably you will still not ever understand what the heck I am saying to you. So it's like this. Let's see. The best way you can understand this is higher self. Okay, higher self. Let's just read these two words. Higher self. What is the self? It's us. Who are us? The ego, right? So we are the ego. The ego is the self. We have the lower self and the higher self. The lower self is below the who we are right now, which is the ego. And the higher self is the higher what? You understand? So lower self, you can understand this in a different way. First of all, I'm going to explain you other things. For example, we have the consciousness, which is now. We have the subconsciousness, which is past, and the unconscious, which is about to come. It can also be said as, for instance, things that we also did before, we just don't remember. And what we did before could be also lifetimes, okay? So it's three things, Trinity. So consciousness is the self, subconsciousness is the lower self, and unconsciousness is the higher self, okay? It can be seen in also three different ways on earth: the warmth, the neutral, and the cold. Or for instance, the best way I can describe is the self is the ego, lower self is the lower ego, and the higher self is the higher ego. So basically, your higher self is your higher ego. There's no other way around it, because it is still you, it just knows more. It knows more that it can avoid mistakes, avoid certain decisions in life that just is not going to serve you anymore. It's basically a self state that acquired, it learned from what happened, okay? It learned, now it doesn't need to learn again. It basically knows what the game is all about. It owns the CD, the circle of life. It owns in its hand, in its small hand, because there's someone else holding the higher self with the hand, and so on and so forth. It keeps on going back. It's just infinity. Okay, there's a higher self behind, higher self behind. So your higher self doesn't know entirely every single thing, but it knows what you should know, which is enough. It's more than enough. Unless you upgrade your consciousness, your higher self should upgrade if you understand what I mean, because it's all about like this. It's a circle. Everything is a circle and yin yang. So basically, if we put 4 things instead of 3 to become a proper circle divided into 4, consciousness, unconsciousness, subconsciousness, and superconsciousness. So the higher self can be the superconsciousness, okay? And the subconsciousness can be things that operate on a lower level. And the unconsciousness is things that we really chose to shut down, or things that we already passed, like past lives and stuff like this. On earth, it can be seen as fire, air, water, and earth. okay? And that's how you get it. Plus, it can be seen as lower ego, higher ego, Kundalini, and higher self. So 4 things. So Kundalini can be, if you see as Trinity, it can be seen as Kundalini is the lower ego, yeah, the lower self. We, the consciousness, the soul is the self, is the ego, and then the higher self, higher ego, okay, can be seen like this. So basically, the higher self is not who you think it is, because it's not this perfect God, perfect image of ourselves. It's basically the ego again. It's just that just because you know it is the ego now doesn't mean you should disregard. It knows a lot of things, but it is not the everything. It is most things without the least things. For example, the Kundalini or the lower self is going to give you what you do not have, and the higher self is going to give you what you have. So it can be, an interchangeable energetic movement between the two energies, and that's what it is. So the higher self, just think about a part of the clock. Like if you could see like fire, air, water, and earth, because earth and water are yin, fire and air are yang. The higher self is something like the 2 up, and the Kundalini is like the 2 down. But we are something in the middle. We are a little bit in the middle, okay? And we need all of this together. Without higher self, without the higher ego, we do not have the higher elements. Without the lower ego, we do not have the lower elements, and so on.